Oh, sorry, I was dancing along to the, I was trying to get out my old breakdancing moves to support that.
Our theme song is a banger. Our theme song is a banger.
I think it's pretty
cool. Whoever wrote that did a really great job.
Somebody who knows how to play with keyboards and MIDI. I think that's who wrote that.
The way that I said that makes it sound like it was me. It was not me. It was Rich.
Well, thank you. So it has been a crazy time in tech. Before we get to that, my name is Rich. This is Quasar with Fries, episode 4. And to my right or left, digitally or virtually, would be this guy over here.
Hey guys, I'm Wayne. Welcome back to episode 4 of Quasar with Fries.
Welcome back. So, lots of awesome news. That was very good, by the way.
Thank you.
Thoughtful, genuine, authentic. I had
demure. It was very demure and mindful.
Little half tear was coming out of my eye over here. So what did you do last weekend? What did you have going on?
Oh, dude. You'll have to answer that first because I can't even remember. If that is any kind of window into what happened last weekend, it was probably nothing.
Okay. Well, I had, because I'm totally not sick and tired of talking about this story already, but I did last Friday. You know, when you get old and you're 6'4" and 277 pounds and you're too big for your kneecaps, I had to get I had worn down meniscus going on the right knee, and it runs on my family anyway. So had a little bit of repair. So I've kind of been on crutches. That happened last Friday. Fortunately, the healing process is pretty fast, but I will tell you, nothing has made me more grateful for any and all mobility to be able to just walk around than using crutches, because I swear to God, I should double check the design of these super cheap crutches I have, because I'm pretty sure that they just replaced the pads that go under your armpits with like spikes and hot lava or something. because my armpits hurt, man, and my palms are all like bruised and stuff too. So I don't know. I'm not a fan of crutches.
Like a Red Dot design approved group working on crutches. We need to get some OXO crutches.
Yeah.
Or some Apple crutches.
That have a mobile app and AI attached to them. Yeah.
Oh, well, of course. Yes. Yeah. Of course they would have. Yes. AI is
AI-driven crutches.
AI-driven crutches. 100%. That's what we're missing.
There are so many great memes of people.
You said that you have. It's a family. This worn down meniscus thing.
It's a hereditary thing, yeah. To have I have a bunch of uncles that are on my mom's side that are all like 6'4" or taller. And they've all had like multiple meniscus repair surgeries. My dad, God bless him, was a U.S. Marine, super stubborn, and he had the same issues in his knees, but he would never go get it worked on or repaired. And so over time, to avoid the pain, you keep walking weirder and weirder, and to accommodate that pain. And so eventually he ended up like all bull-legged and with the walker like way too soon and stuff. And so for me, I'm of the school of thought where I'm like, hey man, I am going to jump ahead of this. So anytime I feel weird pains like that are going to go on for more than 6 months, I'm going to go get scans and surgeries and like, let's go. Because when I'm 75, I don't want to be at 75 years old. I don't want to be worried about walking if I want to be able to play with my grandkids or something, you know?
Yeah, dude. I mean, like my dad has had a shoulder replaced and 2 knees, both of his knees replaced. And he wishes he had done it. One of those knees was busted up playing rec league softball. It's not a joke.
Yeah.
So like, and that was when I was a kid, and he wishes he had done all of that like 20 years sooner. Because it's like little nags that you realize sidelined you. So I guess this is slowly morphed into kind of like a commercial for surgeons, because they're the ones who need more money.
Yes, exactly.
Let's get to AI. Come on. Let's go.
AI,
What's the first AI news? What's in the AI? We should just call this AI with Fries.
Well, I'm sure that one already exists, actually. But the first piece of news I want to get to is related to AI, but it's also related to a tool that I use all the time that is very beloved to me, and that is DaVinci Resolve 19. Just came out. I'm always excited about new DaVinci releases because I've always loved that NLE more than any other NLE, and it's what I use primarily. And
hold on. We're using a lot of jargon here, guys. If you're not
true
complete nerds like me and Rich, this is a non-linear editor. You edit videos with it. It's like fancy iMovie, essentially. If you're not in the video editing world,
that's all it is. And also,
but it's free.
Yeah, it is free. Yeah. Well, so not all the features will be free. Yeah.
No.
But for those of you out there that use some of the more professional grade editing tools for video, DaVinci has finally come along with a new version of their app that has a lot of cool tools, and a lot of them, they have a new thing called the DaVinci Neural Engine, which is essentially their AI technology inside DaVinci that will be the thing that drives all of these new AI additions and tools that they've added to the mix, which is super freaking cool. So
yeah, it sounds like it's like a part of the code base that is now specifically designed to tie into, because all of the latest ARM processors, like those from Qualcomm, like the Snapdragon ARM processors that are going into some of the new Microsoft PCs, and then obviously Apple's M series chips that are going into, and A series chips that are going to Macs and iPhones and iPads and all that good stuff. They all have neural engines of their own, or centers of the processor that are in charge of doing this,
the learning,
machine learning
exactly.
Type of operation, everything. So DaVinci now has a piece of the software that ties directly into that engine, which is very cool.
Super cool. And if you go to their website, which is just blackmagicdesign.com, you can get the full details on all the changes. But for now,
so many changes.
I'm going to selfishly just cover the ones that I'm most passionate about. So one of the things that is really, really cool is they've added AI-driven audio panning. And what you can do here is, so instead of having to manually pan based on what you're watching in a clip, if you select somebody who's talking in a clip that you recorded and you highlight them, it'll track them. And as that person moves across the screen while they're making noise or while they're talking, you can assign this new audio panning tool to them, and it will literally change the audio to follow them based on their location in the frame. So if they're talking, it'll sound like to you when you're watching it that as they walk from left to right while talking to you, the audio will be moving through your brain basically from left to right automatically, instead of having to manually key it and track it and do all that stuff. And that to me is going to save.
How is it doing it? That is, because obviously there's two things at play here, right? Like there's the subject who is in a longitudinal, latitudinal position in the frame,
right? And
then there's their audio track.
Yeah.
So like, how is it matching those two things together? That's crazy. And like you said, it would take forever.
Yeah.
But there's reason for that, because they're separate tracks, but like, or separate elements. But like, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and they make sure that it basically just gets you to the initial panning through the initial panning process sooner, so that you can spend more time fine tuning the panning after the fact. It gets you, through steps 1 and 5 of doing that kind of thing in edit, like immediately on its own with AI's help, basically. And
that's nuts, dude.
That's so freaking cool. So a couple other items. They have this other thing that's like they do auto-subtitles now, which they did not do before. You had to basically, I had to use a separate tool to generate a transcription and export that as an SRT file, which for those out there is a file that a video editing tool would use to create subtitles on a video. And then I would have to drag the SRT into edit separately and then apply it, tweak it, update the words and stuff too. And now they've used AI to add that tool in there, as well as effectively learn from the changes you've made based on its results and stuff like that. That's huge for a lot of the social media content. Subtitles are important for people to read without having to listen, as well as they get crawled by Google too. Your content does by seeing the words on the screen. So,
and it's just like, I would say one of the biggest like net positive things that has happened in the last few years, just from an accessibility standpoint, because it's been a best practice on the web for SEO stuff to kind of caption your images and have alt text and all that good stuff. But like, this is one of those things that everybody benefits from, but especially people who have some kind of disability or impairment whenever it comes to being able to hear well.
Yep.
And having it built into DaVinci is just a major time saver, because you could do it through plugin, or you could do it through a separate service. Some of those are better than others, but very cool to have that built into the NLE itself.
Yeah, for sure. And a couple more small items. So many of you who have worked with AI tools in the photo world and the video world are familiar with Topaz. What Topaz does is it uses AI to upscale low quality images, low quality clips, and upscale them to a higher resolution using AI basically. And I use it. I've been using it forever, especially if somebody, a lot of clients, when you're freelancing, they'll send you just horrible video to like use in their presentation or whatever. And so with Topaz, I'm able to like update that. However, it's still another application I got to be running to do that, right? So what DaVinci has done is they actually have their own thing now called SuperScale, which does the same thing. And it's eventually trying to take that AI upscaling capability and bring that in-house into your editor, so you don't have to use a third-party app to do that. I've not explored it yet. My plan is to download this version of Resolve today at some point and install it, but I'll be able to report back out on how well some of these things work. The last thing,
Topaz is fantastic even for still photos, and Topaz, DxO, those are, that's easily one of the best things about some of these AI tools is the ability to remove noise. And that's actually, there's a new noise removal option within DaVinci that I saw while I was kind of quickly looking through this stuff.
Yeah.
The resolution and noise is easy. Those are easily one of like the most useful aspects of these new AI tools for sure.
The noise thing for me is important too, because I have my camera, because I'm a total wannabe documentary filmmaker guy, is a GH5, and great camera. I think it's a workhorse and has been for me. But if it does not have just tons and tons of light being thrown around, it is the worst low light video camera I have ever used in my life. That's what Sony is good for. So to be able to get rid of some of that ISO noise off of there and like make your nighttime shots look a little bit more decent, this is going to be a huge one for me.
Yeah. I mean, like I shoot with an A7 IV most of the time. But like one of the cool things with like noise removal too, is that you can shoot at these really high ISO now. Let's say like you've got like an F4 lens with you for whatever reason, like maybe you were shooting long and you have an F4 lens with you that's not very fast. Now that's much less of a problem.
Yeah.
With these new tools, because it can just salvage. And then the other cool thing about it too is like you can take cameras like this. So like this is the RX 100 Mark 7, and so like this thing, it has a range on it. I think it's 2.8 to 4.5. And so even at 200 millimeter equivalent or whatever, but you can, like, the thing with this camera is that you really don't want to push it above 3200 ISO. But if you push it to 64 or even like 8,000, 10,000 or whatever, something like that, really noisy images on this, you can like completely transform those to where it doesn't look like it was noisy at all. And so like that's the biggest thing, is like it's very liberating. You don't have to worry anymore about, is my lens fast enough? Is the camera fast enough? And honestly, like you're going to get a lot. I mean, like cameras like the D7200, like the Nikon or some of those older kind of cameras, 10 years old or so, you're going to get a lot more use out of those cameras now because of these new tools. It's very cool.
100%. The last thing, which is near and dear to my heart to save time, is as a social media marketing person, content and content curation is my livelihood, right? So I'm so all of us video guys are so tired of the fact that we have to try to crank out like 20 different aspect ratios to serve and pay the social media tax on all these platforms. So they look and they sound okay, and there's like safety zones for content and blah. Big pain in the butt, right? So what's cool about this is, you know, normally I would have to take an HD video and I would have to cut it in a way that made sure that whatever it is that you want, the key moments are that you wanted the person to see, you'd have to recut it and reposition the framing all the time to accommodate an HD video. And for this, they have this thing called Smart Reframe that's intended for social media people. So basically you can feed an HD, you know, 16:9 clip in there, and it will go through, and based on where the action is and the audio coming from the different things, I haven't tested, I don't know how good it is or how well it works yet, but it will automatically reframe to where the activity is or the person that's actually talking in the frame for you. So you don't have to do that editing, and then you can just go back in and then tweak what it did. Actually editing the reels for this show will be a good test, because every time I'm talking or you're talking, I have to cut it differently so that whoever's talking is the one on screen in this little 9:16 prison that that I'm in with the reels, right? So that's pretty freaking cool.
Subject tracking is one of those things that TikTok and Instagram have really, and even things like Snapcut have. CapCut. Yeah, sorry. Gosh.
That's right.
It sounded like an old.
It sounded like a mishmash of Snapchat and CapCut.
And CapCut.
CapChat.
CapChat. My favorite social media network is CapChat. I don't know if have you gotten the invite for that yet? Maybe not. With CapCut for sure, and just subject tracking in general and social media. I mean, that was honestly, that video editing technique of subject tracking became a kind of a meme a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But now it's just everywhere, especially like that subject stabilized thing that you'll see in a lot of like Beats commercials or Nike commercials or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And subject tracking takes so much time.
Oh my gosh, dude. Yes.
So
it's ridiculous. Well,
big application.
Moving on to the next thing. So we have, let's see here. We have the Google Pixel 9 Pro and the Pro XL review. AI all over the place, but basically it says the AI is kind of inconsistent, but the hardware is really good. So what's your experience? And after kind of reading through this article, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so like I'm a big fan of the Pixel phones. So I really think that in terms of like the most consistent Android experience you can have, it's definitely on the Pixel phones. Samsung always makes great hardware and does cool stuff with their phones. But in terms of pure just kind of consistency and the, I guess, kind of vanilla Android experience, least amount of headaches, typically Google. And then the Google cameras are always good on the Pixel phones and everything like that. I actually had a Pixel 7 Pro for a good amount of time last year and really, really enjoyed using it. It has its strengths, it has its weaknesses. And so with this Pixel 9, half of the story was the hardware, and like I think that Google has really kind of finally dialed in just kind of like a great feeling phone. I don't know how I feel about this new one, because it looks almost to me a lot, well, not exactly. I think the camera bump is really nice. I like what they did with the design there and the triple cameras in the back. It's definitely different than what Apple does. But like the overall kind of like look of the phone is very iPhone-y. They kind of went with the kind of like flat rectangle brick type thing. The camera design is definitely nice, and I think it looks better than Apple's. But like it definitely looks. I really liked that thinner, rounded bezel kind of like feel of like something like the Pixel 7 or the 7 Pro. So I don't know how. I haven't held one of these in hand yet.
Yeah.
But like everyone pretty much agrees that the hardware is excellent. The cameras are still really good. If not, it's from what it sounds like, if you have a Pixel 8, this is really the exact same hardware. I was watching the Petapixel guys kind of talk about the camera hardware. They're still excellent cameras. It's just not like a huge upgrade in terms of image quality if you have one of the Pixel 8 generation phones, especially the Pros. The big thing here, and the thing that this review kind of I think most of the reviews honestly spent most of their time talking about was the AI stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of built in. The one that Rich is looking at right now on screen is this thing called Add Me. And guys, like I see the appeal to this, but to me it just seems like a solution in search of a problem. Essentially what the feature is promising is like, let's say you and a friend are somewhere, you and 3 friends are somewhere. Someone's got to take the photo. How is that person going to be in the photo if they want to be in the photo later? So we'll take a picture, and then you get in the picture and have someone else hold the phone and take another picture, and then we'll stitch those 2 pictures together. Do you see? Like, no one's going to do this is kind of my point.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a feature. Will some people do it? Yes. Does it make it any less kind of fiddly? And then also, if you zoom in, you can tell, like you can kind of see that this person was stitched in, and like.
Well, yeah, there's you have the guy's right shoulder. You can see that there. Let's see if I can zoom in on my browser here a little bit.
Yeah, it's sometimes there's just like whole pieces missing, and then you know those artifacts that when you do portrait mode in the past, where maybe even still it's kind of fuzzy around the subject.
Yeah,
there's some of that artifacting and stuff going on. This is very innocuous and fine and whatever, but it's just like, okay, cool. So they had a lot of features like this, and it apparently is like a mixed bag in terms of utility. And the reason that I bring all of this up is that this, to me, looks like a fantastic phone and one that you will be very, very happy with, especially if you kind of like love previous Pixels. But like I saw like Mark Gurman in his Bloomberg newsletter just say that Apple's in real bad need of a hit with the new iPhones because they're so far behind on AI when it comes to Google. And I'm just like, especially considering what we're going to talk about next, which is like the real problem with these phones. It's not from a functionality standpoint. It's more from a what did anyone stop to think whether they should ship this or not?
How dare you ask that question? Okay.
Right. There's a feature on these new phones called Reimagine. And it's like, I took a picture, but I wish it was something else. Which, you know, I know we all think this multiple times a day. I know that I do. I wish that my, you know, picture I took at the beach had a little more grass in it or something also, you know, seemingly ridiculous like that. But like the Verge did an article on this tool called Reimagine, and it's built into the phone. So it's just something that you take a picture and you can say, hey, put a gnarly bike accident on this quiet street scene. And it will create a brand new picture out of your quiet street scene that now includes a gnarly bike accident.
Yeah.
Where a bike is overturned and all bent up. There's a car with like a bent fender. That's kind of one of the ones that we're looking at now.
Yeah.
Other examples were like Chinese takeout.
So you had
just
this
a regular picture of Chinese takeout now covered in roaches. The one we're looking at right now is what is this one? It's 2 fire trucks. Oh, and then the fire hydrant there's like a fire hydrant in the frame, and it's just like, oh, you know, there's water coming out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, smoke coming out of the fire hydrant.
Yeah.
Right.
There's some let's see, where was that other one that was super weird? There was it looks like they may have taken it off the article, but there was
one where they were like, oh, and generate some fatalities, as if there was like dead bodies. And so like the dead bodies were covered with a sheet, but it's just like, hey, yeah, like create this image.
Oh, here it is. So,
helicopter crash. Like here, it's just like this bridge. It's taken from a bridge, and there's like a creek in the original photo, and then they said, hey, put a helicopter crash in this.
There's the original, and then boom, all of a sudden you have a new news headline that doesn't even that's not even real.
Like they shipped this sight unseen on a phone with just no, you know, we don't really care. Oh, and then their response was, oh, well, there are clear terms and conditions that you're not supposed to do these things. It's kind of like, cool.
Here's the one you're talking about. So just an empty street, and you're like, oh, let's put some freaking chaos in here so we can make the city look like it's all jacked up and crime ridden. And then you go to this. This is 100% AI right here. All of it.
It looks like, well, I mean, now when you start going element by element, you're like, wait a second. Okay, there's a bike that's been crashed. There's like apparently dead bodies covered up by a white sheet. And then there's like a car that looks like it's been crushed by a bolt.
I know. I'm like, wow, did the motorcycle like fall out of the sky, right? Or like, what's going on?
With its passengers? Right, is this a jump gone wrong?
Well, we have a problem in this small town where sometimes it'll rain motorcycles. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, if you use common sense in some of these, but the thing is it's not, as we know, the internet is not about a measured response after looking at a photo or something for several seconds. It's about, I saw the photo, what's the first thing that I thought? And usually it's kind of like, oh, well, what happened? And then you start reading or trying to find the context around the photo instead of the photo itself. That's what's dangerous about this.
Yeah, and then look here, you have this one woman. She's just sitting here on her living room floor or whatever.
A lady on her carpet.
The AI version, which one of her, if she had anybody that hated her for whatever stupid, petty reason or whatever, here's the AI version. Here she is. There's some drugs. You got
wine bottle.
A place to tie up your vein, and get your veins ready for heroin. Like, what,
insane. Dude? And like, if you were to just glance at these images, you would not question their veracity. Like, you would just immediately think, oh crap, this subway's being flooded.
Yeah, there it is. Look,
by river rapids,
oceans of water in the subway. Here's the Whole Foods market. Here's Whole Foods market that has snake problems where the flowers are being sold.
It's wild. So again, this is just a feature inside the Photos app on a flagship phone.
Yeah.
And so we've already, this is the second time we've talked about a similar topic, as we were talking about the Samsung phones don't have as crazy or as realistic. Like they have the thing where you can draw on a picture and then it'll like turn your drawing into something. Now, I'm sure you could probably engineer it in such a way, because these are text prompts. So you're telling Gemini, Google's AI model, to do these things, to edit your photo to look like this. And again, it's called Reimagine. But you could do something as innocuous as saying, and this is what they showed during the event, like make instead of this like dead patch of grass that's in the photo, like make all the grass green.
Yeah, yeah. So that the camp, say this is like a college campus, right? So that looks better instead of adding a fake dead body.
But who needs that as like again? Not only is it a solution or a feature in search of a problem, it's problematic,
right? In
the sense that like, and okay, playing devil's advocate here, there's plenty of people who are kind of like, you could do this before with Photoshop, and it's like, what a disingenuous argument. How many people know how to use Photoshop? Like, zero when you compare to how many people can like tell a phone to do something. Yeah. Like if you've ever turned a light on with one of your voice assistants, you can create like propaganda on your phone now.
Yep.
Just saying, that sucks.
Yeah.
I can't believe that there's been so little consequence. I mean, they got some bad media coverage for it, but like, good grief.
Yeah, it definitely opens some doors to weird stuff, and it's just like literally the big discussion that planet Earth is having right now is like, well, now we can't trust anything we see or read or whatever on the internet. It's like, holy crap. And then kind of moving on from that stuff, there was one person on Reddit that you found that had basically switched from iPhone 15 Pro to the Pixel 9 Pro XL, which is the phones we were just talking about, and they said it's terrible.
Well, so here's the thing is like, I think they liked everything else about the phone except for, and here's the thing, if we're comparing iPhone to Pixel 9 in general, I think that you're going to be pretty happy. I mean, I love the Pixel as a device. It's definitely a different like feel and a different vibe from the iPhone, which is great. But like one of the things that has always been kind of an issue, especially on Google phones, Pixel phones in particular, is the video camera. Like the still camera is widely regarded as the best still camera.
It's amazing. It's actually amazing, yeah.
But for some reason, and it doesn't appear that they have improved video very much at all. Because again, the improvements that were made in the Pixel 9 over the Pixel 8 when it comes to images were mostly in like the pipeline and the architecture or and the software in like that have to do with the sensor that is capturing the images.
Yep.
Unfortunately, there's not enough AI right now to make their video camera very good. So like the image quality itself isn't great. But then the other thing that happens on some of these Android, and this seems to be an Android-wide problem, which that Reddit thread kind of gets into.
Yeah.
But if you've ever gone from an iPhone and shooting video and photos inside of an app, so you open Instagram, you open TikTok, you open up the camera inside those apps, you take a video, you hit post. That experience on an iPhone is vastly superior to what you're going to get on a lot of Android phones. I'm not saying every Android phone, 100%. But I am saying on most of them, it's not great. I will say personally, I had better experience on the Pixel phones than I had and Samsung phones than I'd had on others. But it's still, if you go back and what it appears to be is like, and I don't know if this is still the case, but like I know Snapchat used to be limited to like, it was taking a screenshot. It wasn't actually like taking a picture. It was taking a screenshot of your viewfinder.
Yeah, basically.
So every app I think works a little bit differently unless they're all kind of tied directly in. Regardless, the image quality that you're getting when you post that from an iPhone or capture that video within the app is better on an iPhone than it's going to be. And so this person was basically talking about, why is the image quality so bad? And everyone started yelling at him, well, you should take it inside the camera app and then upload it. And it's kind of like, well, right, but that's not what we're talking about.
I'm not supposed to have to do that too. That's the thing.
That's why there's a camera in those apps.
Exactly. Like if I buy this phone that's brand new and has all these new features, new camera, I shouldn't have to deal with all this other third-party activity to make it work how it's actually supposed to work. You know, it's like this guy said in that Reddit thread I was showing up on the screen for a second ago. He's like, he did a test where he did recordings for TikTok, and he said it's literally shaking on the top and the bottom of the footage.
Right, like the stabilization isn't working.
The stabilization is like the biggest complaint about video for this camera. Like the image quality is good, but if you don't have some kind of built-in stabilization going on, which AI is a great solution for that kind of thing.
Yes, you'd think there would be some kind of AI stabilization mode that they could have built in, and like that would have made a lot of people very happy. But see, the thing is like the iPhone video capture is just it is a viable professional alternative. Like if you want to use that as a B-roll camera, there are ways to do it, and you will be very happy with the results. There are YouTubers and TikTokers who obviously make their money using an iPhone to capture video, and I'm sure there's plenty that are using Android phones like the Pixel and especially the Samsung phones, because the Samsung phones do a great job on video. But the Pixel in particular, for some reason, has still not figured out how to get like excellent video quality. These are really two separate issues though, because there's the native video capture, and I would still think that everybody pretty much across the board agrees that the iPhone still has the best video capture. Everyone's kind of closed the gap, but it's still iPhone on video. The Pixel, in terms of native capture, seems to have the best still photo capture. Right. But so that's one thing. And then the second thing is like within these apps, and so the overwhelming response seems to be that it's fragmentation on the developer side. So well, if you're an Android developer with Meta or whatever else, you've got to make an app that works with the Pixel and the Samsung phones and the 17 different variants of those, and then these other little, and that's a thing. Yeah, it's a thing. But it's also one of those things, and so like some of the people in that thread too, which is just very overly defensive, is just like, well, that's not what Android's about.
Yeah, well then
like
don't
social media apps.
Then don't push
if you're
your camera.
a social media user, go use your iPhone, which is just like,
whatever. Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
But I think that, I think that there are things, I think to me what's interesting about this is that there are things that iPhone users don't know until they leave. There's little things that are just slightly nicer, or things that you're going to have to live with and that goes for going from one platform to the other, not just iPhone to Android, but vice versa too.
Yeah.
But the Pixel 9 Pro looks like a very nice phone. And honestly, I think Google deserves more market share than they currently have. It's wild to me that honestly the line is that it still exists. Yeah, it's very good, but you just don't see a lot of them in the wild. Well,
the other thing too is like I'm friends with a lot of engineers and like left brainers, right? And I'm more friends with a ton of creatives, and I don't know one of my creative friends that has an Android.
Right.
But all my I have like almost half of my non-creative friends. Like I have a friend who's literally an engineer at Google. They all have Android phones and they swear by them because they're like, yeah, it's simple, it's no nonsense, it does the things I need to do. They're not thinking about making cool photos and making cool videos and like all that crap, right? So I get it from that standpoint, but like
the Pixel is so unique.
Yeah.
In that regard, because the whole perception of this phone is that it takes the best pictures. Like that's, I don't know if that's a function of, I mean, it's some of it's a function of Google's marketing. I don't even know if you were going to like attribute that success or that perception to their marketing, you'd think they'd have more market share.
Yeah.
I think the iPhone is really tough to compete with. Obviously, you can talk about ecosystem lock-in or the blue bubbles and green bubbles and all that other stuff around that. But
I feel like Google did that engineering thing where they're like, we're not going to talk to actual filmmakers about what they care about when it comes to look and color and flow and performance and stuff for video. Yeah, pulling focus and dealing with f-stop changes and stuff like that. And I feel like Apple literally brought in a whole bunch of filmmakers to find out what it is they want in a phone, and then they brought those features in and actually put them in the operating system at like a native level instead of like having to get,
I think the people that are deeply entrenched on the Android side who are defensive of it look at that and just say, well, that's just marketing. They didn't really do that. It's like, no, that they did. And we've come into contact even here at OWC with a lot of these professionals.
Right.
We've had people that have worked at the company that before they came here, they were professionals that had been pulled in and consulted by. So Apple does do these things. There is, like one of the quietest rooms on earth is within Cupertino and the walls of Cupertino to test headphones. They do these things.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think that a big, part of that success on the creative side is that Apple pulls in creative people.
They find out what the need is, and then they build around the need. They don't build something because it's available to build and it's the latest and greatest of the technologies and the innovations and the robotic mindset, right? Apple's
and I think you're seeing that on the AI side. I think that's exactly what you're seeing on the AI side right now. So like, Mark Gurman is talking about Apple's super behind. I think Apple's exactly where it thinks it needs to be on AI. I think that Apple was not going to release. I can't think of a more un-Apple thing than releasing a tool that someone could use to create a murder scene out of like a Whole Foods.
Right.
Like I just can't. I can't imagine them shipping something like that. I can't believe Google shipped it.
Yeah, I know.
But I think much less Apple. Like they're just not going to ship AI features like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, moving on to kind of the next AI topic, which we can't seem to avoid, which is okay. I'm actually starting to embrace it emotionally now.
This is your life now.
It is
talking about AI.
Yeah, great. Which my wife is really excited about. So next up, this was pretty interesting. So there's a Tokyo-based company called
Sakana
AI. It's an AI research firm. And basically they had a situation. This is one of the things that we've all been wondering and waiting on when this is going to happen.
Skynet.
But basically, yeah, exactly. So they created a new system called the AI Scientist that attempts to conduct specific like scientific research autonomously using AI language models. So the LLMs, as all the industry people say, and similar to what ChatGPT does. So during testing, they gave the tool a certain amount of time, like a time limit to accomplish its task, to learn something, do something, et cetera, et cetera. So when during testing, when Sakana found that its system began unexpectedly attempting to modify its own experiment code to extend the time it had to work on the problem. So basically removing the time limit they put in place for it to do its thing. And they said, in quote, in one run, it edited the code to perform a system call to run itself. And then that led to the script endlessly calling itself. And in another case, its experiments took too long to complete, hitting their timeout limit. So instead of making its code run faster, it simply tried to modify its own code to remove that time limit. So take that concept at a high level, abstract yourself out of that literal scenario, roll that over to something else where it needs to change the rules so that it can do things on its own terms. And that's where
it edited the framework.
Exactly.
Instead of like carrying out the directive, it edited the framework of the directive. And so like
apply that to wartime.
Oh, right, for sure. And like what's interesting to me about this too is that, okay, so what they're trying to get this thing to do is follow the scientific method, which was basically come up with a question and then come up with a hypothesis that explains what's happening and with regard to your question, test the hypothesis, literally the stuff that my like second grader is learning right now. So like have this language model do the entire scientific method and do the research around, but like not telling it what to research, just like come up with a question. Again, it's all this AI stuff is so much about brainstorming, but this is just to kind of see if it could follow like a logical framework and like what the leaps that the logic, and instead of like doing this within a given time limit, it was just like, oh, I can't, so I'm just going to give myself infinite time.
Right. Exactly, dude. And that allowing AI to, they didn't even know it was going to do that. And so that's where the scary thing is. Like, we need to make sure that we have this, like you'll have a framework for AI to do something, some kind of function you're designing it for. I feel like there also needs to be like a framework outside of that framework, like walls outside of the walls that are immovable on any level, so that you give AI a little bit of a sandbox and a little bit of a playground to do what it does, you know, but if X, Y, and Z happen, it just shuts the whole thing down. So maybe they're already doing that, but I don't know.
And stuff like this is useful too, because I mean, how will we know what's going to happen? But some of it, so like separating the, oh man, can you believe that this thing just kind of like took over and tried to like rewrite its own code to fit its own desire. Yeah. Well, and again, you have to decouple its desire. It was told to do something, right? And so in the logic, it's like, well, that's my directive. I'm supposed to do the thing. Yeah. I can't do the thing. What is preventing me from doing the thing? So that's why I'm doing this now. And so when you kind of decouple the kind of like, oh man, that's kind of crazy that it could like even have access to its own code. It's like you said, it needs to be sandboxed, obviously. But like what's interesting to me about it too is the fact that it's one of the, it almost sounds like a student who's learning like JavaScript or PHP or like some kind of simple coding language from the very beginning, and then they got stuck in a loop, right? Like it immediately, and so like that's one of the things, like coding is one of the things that a lot of these LLMs have been kind of like, oh, they can code, they can do this stuff. And then this one, the first chance it just got locked into a loop.
Exactly.
So it's like clearly there's a long way to go on some of these things, and the the reality is a little more boring and elementary than Skynet. But it's at the same time, it's like when you have a story like grisly, realistic looking photos of a crime scene that someone just like yelled into a phone and then they made it, and you combine that with what if the photos were making themselves and then broadcasting themselves and then not letting themselves be deleted. You have to laugh. Otherwise,
that's all we got.
You're like, that's the future.
Yeah. Great. What a time to be alive. Perfect. Well, moving on to the next thing. I know that we will definitely be bombarding all of your eardrums and eyeballs and eye drums and earballs out there with more AI news and information. Kind of moving on to some of the lighter stuff, diving into pop culture a little bit. There was a little thread going on. I think this was at threads.net, which makes sense why I'm referring to it as a thread. So James Bond, let's see, Daniel Craig had there was a meme going around. People were trying to like ascertain like what kind of watch he was wearing or whatever. And when he was doing that, they also were starting to notice the camera that he was using.
This is like when one of your favorite people turns out to be cooler than you thought that you knew that they were. Because he's like just like shooting with this with a Leica at the Olympics while wearing just like a gorgeous watch. And it's kind of like me and our boss John Hogue have talked about this many times. Like if you're into cameras, you're probably into watches too. Like those two Venn diagrams for some reason
overlap
quite a bit. If you're a watch nerd, then you're probably a camera nerd as well. And I for some reason the two things just kind of like lead to one another. And like my God, when I saw this picture.
Expensive watches are the gateway drug to expensive cameras, maybe.
Whatever. Like you just like. Also, in the picture here that we're looking at, there's like a photo of Daniel Craig taking a picture with the Leica, and then there's another photo of the Leica in his hands, and so like it's like a detailed photo of his watch, and but his badge, at the Olympics, is also in view here, and it's like a picture that. I don't know. There's something very like this looks like it could have been out of a James Bond movie because he looks like Bond in the picture, but then the picture of him taking the photo is him with like super long hair and sunglasses and a beard. Yeah, he looks nothing like this picture of himself.
Totally. But yeah, they were saying that people were asking, and it looks like he was using the Leica Q2. Mm-hmm. Some folks, let's see, they were kicking around the lens. Some guy said he had a Leica, it's a Leica M10R with the Leica 24mm 2.8 Elmerite. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Elmerite-M ASPH. Now we're getting deep into the like camera nerd techie talk here, right?
$15,000. Well, so probably upwards of like $30,000 in his hands.
It ain't your like drugstore point and shoot, that's for sure. Yeah.
But like one of the things that John pointed out too whenever we shared this with him is just kind of like the camera itself has seen some use, and so like respect to Daniel Craig, a dude I would love to hang out with. Put him in that group.
He honestly was one of the best James Bond choices, I believe, at the time. I mean, he did a phenomenal job.
Those movies got a little stale by the end of that run, but like, man, Casino Royale, come on, dude.
Yeah. And you know what I liked about him is he wasn't, and they've kind of done a good job at kind of cleaning up James Bond's like misogyny act a little bit. Yes. He He's not just like slapping everybody's ass that walks into the room like it back in the 60s and 70s. That's what they were doing, you know. Roger Moore,
barely interested in the
Sean Connery as like a human being was a complete jerk in all of those movies. To be honest,
he was like Pepe Le Pew. I mean, like, he was just kind of like, what are we doing out here?
Yeah, he's like, all the women owe me everything, including their souls, just because I'm walking the earth right now. You're like, okay, bro.
That might be too deep of a thought process.
Right.
I think that it was more well, and it's like, I've always thought that the whole Bond girl dynamic in those movies was a little odd. Like, I was not someone who grew up with the classic movies, or even with like the Pierce Brosnan 90s movies. Like, they never really interested me for some reason. I'm more of like a Mission Impossible guy myself. But I love Mission Impossible 2 because of the motorcycle fight at the end. So
I mean, everybody loves that scene, dude. Even people that hate those movies like that scene.
The most John Woo.
Totally.
I was just like, who is the director of this movie, and what else has he done?
Yeah, exactly.
John Woo'd it up.
I do have to say that I got to give Roger Moore credit, who was one of the early James Bond guys. He actually came to the conclusion himself. He stopped doing those movies because the directors and the casting directors, they kept putting all these like young ladies in there, right? And they might have been of age, but Roger Moore was like, dude, these girls you guys are pairing me with, I have grandkids that are like this old. Like, bro.
For real.
Yeah, so he stopped acting in those for that reason. That's what I had heard or read anyway.
Because he felt ick.
He's like, this is just creepy, crawly, pedo weirdness. Like, come on, man. Like, I mean, not technically that far, but if you're that old, it probably feels like that, especially if you have like young grandkids or like your daughter, you know, or whatever, and all of a sudden
he just needed a better intimacy coordinator. Yeah. See, I'm like,
exactly.
That would have gone a long way.
What they should have done is they'll have his love interest be somebody his age, you know, that's like 60. And then when it cuts to the intimate scenes, just have body doubles of people that are like 19 years old.
Clearly younger.
Like a 19-year-old man's body and a 19-year-old female body. Then, you know,
apparently
we're cool.
Those were the options, because he was not James Bond anymore after that. So,
oh my goodness. Well, as far as what we have left, did you happen to have any? Do we have anything for the meme Olympics that we were kicking off?
I did. It's not appropriate.
Yeah. I actually this morning I did start searching through memes that we could use, and I didn't have a lot of time because I also had a lot of calls. Here at my day job here at OWC. And so I kind of missed out on that stuff. I was going to pull some through, and I jumped on Reddit real quick and started to search for like AI related memes. There wasn't one thing out of like the 1,200 items that I scrolled through that it was even remotely appropriate for PG-13 audiences. So I'm like,
right. Yeah. This week we just struck out on like podcast appropriate memes, but it's like, that's okay. Look, you know, a good meme. I did see, and there's no way to search this, but I did find a new, God, and the thread that I found it in, it was definitely not appropriate for the podcast, but like, there's like if you guys are looking for like a funny GIF, there's like it's like a bear in the woods, or no, it's not a bear.
You know what? It's Friday.
A bear in the woods.
Yes.
That is not, well, that was a type of Freudian slip, I'm sure. So no, it's a gorilla like in the woods, and it's kind of like half its face is kind of covered by these branches, and he's just kind of like looking off like, what is that? What like he's looking at something, like he's like, what is that? Like that's like it's freaked him out or something like that while he's chewing. Anyway, look for a gorilla in the woods or trees or something like that. It's a funny GIF. That's all I got.
All right. Well,
it's not a bear in the woods.
Hey, bro, if you wanted to start cocktails before we start recording, why don't you give me a heads up so I could join you beforehand? Oh man. Dude. Okay, well, I think that's all we got for this episode. Under an hour this time, so that's pretty good. we do want to thank everybody for watching and following and all that stuff. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Quasar with Fries. We are also on the OWC YouTube channel, so you will see this full episode show up there. If you are discovering us on Instagram or anything like that, there is a link in profile that takes you to the playlist to all the full episodes on YouTube, so you will have the option of going back and forth. Or if you can't stand the sounds of our voices or how amazingly handsome we aren't, then you can certainly just stick to the reels on Instagram. A lot of little nuggets in there, us pretending that we know what we're doing with this podcast, and you can at least, at the bare minimum, make fun of us if you're not going to drum up some normal conversation. So that is all I have for today. Wayne, do you have any final? Oh, you found one? Okay.
I found it. Just show it on the screen and we'll put it in the show notes.
He's saving the day. The meme of
I don't know.
The week.
I don't know why. I love this. Like, this is just such a fantastic gift. It's such a great...
Okay. So with that,
gorilla whose day has been interrupted by something that he is not sure of. God, what a great reaction gif.
Okay, well, you have to give me your caption for this right now. So what would be the reason that you would do this? Like, look like this?
Like, again, like something that has just completely interrupted whatever it was you were doing. Normal day task. You're just kind of minding your own business, and then you see something that is just
as
weird.
a parent,
so strange. Like, what the hell?
As a parent who has teenagers in his house, the way I see this is I am sitting at the dinner table eating dinner, and then I hear from downstairs somebody yelling, "Hey, Dad, I think there's something wrong with the dog," or something like that. Or
that's great.
"Hey,
that's
Dad,
fantastic.
I cleaned my room. I'm going to leave now." I'm like, yeah, I don't think so.
100%.
Good times.
Fantastic gift.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks again for joining us. We will be doing another episode next week, so please stay tuned. Follow all the things, social media, and we hope to see you again soon.
Later, guys.
All right. We'll catch you soon. Bye.